exactly what we want to see from Brock Purdy, the connection to Deebo Samuel. You absolutely love to see this. And I think this is absolutely a glimpse into Brock Purdy's arm continuing to develop. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, wait, Brad, Brock Purdy's arm continuing to develop? I thought he was a noodle arm. I thought this is what he was. I thought last year in training camp, when he was recovering from a UCL surgery in his throwing elbow after just about 2 months, that's who he was. That's who his arm was. Well, that's how he was evaluated by some at training camp. But if you understood what goes into this process and you could rationalize that Brock Purdy was 2 months removed from a massive surgery on his throwing elbow, that there would be an acclimation period. I mean, Brock Purdy wasn't even a full participant for the entirety of training camp because he was on a rehab schedule. Yet, when he was evaluated throughout the lens of certain people at training camp, you would have thought Brock Purdy was the worst quarterback in the NFL. And that's the problem with the way people perceive Brock, and not only with his training camp coverage, but throughout the coverage of his entire season last year. This guy was bouncing back from being able to throw again. And I think when you look at what he's able to do just last year, you have to be able to project out that his arm is going to improve and he's going to get better. And one of the main areas that I've been talking about all off season has been his ability to improve the deep ball. Now, we have seen the success that he has had in the short to intermediate towards the sidelines. He is really good about 25 yards and in, and you see the timing, you see the accuracy, you see the zip, you see all those different types of things. And where we're really wanting to see Brock Purdy take the next step are passes beyond 35 yards. And when you look at this pass to Deebo Samuel, you get all of that. You get Deebo catching it against the left sideline, toe tap, and you just look at the entire process. It's Brock Purdy kind of fading to his left. You get like a fade throw, and you get a beautiful ball, beautiful spiral, and drops it right on the one of Deebo Samuel. And to me, this is a glimpse of what is going to come this year. I've been saying it over and over and over again. I believe that Brock Purdy will improve his deep ball. I believe that what we saw last year in training camp, in which everyone was super critical of him throughout a rehab process, was trying to understand where he was just in trying to get back to baseline. People were trying to evaluate his just getting back to baseline, which is what he was before the surgery, as like a situation where he was a lesser quarterback because he wasn't able to hit on a lot of the deep balls that he threw throughout training camp. And I think it's very important to be able to contextualize this. When you're coming back from that serious of an injury, it's going to be a challenge. You're not just going to be able to snap right back and be able to do everything like you used to do. You have to relearn the process. And with Brock last year, it was very easy to see that that's what he was doing with his deep ball. He would either overshoot it, he would undershoot it, too much air, not enough air. That's where he was with his deep ball. And you could see it was just a timing element. He was just trying to get it back. And although he wasn't very successful at it in training camp, you could see the progression and you could see and rationalize why he was having those struggles. And on top of that, he was the only quarterback in training camp last year who had the cojones to actually air it out. And he was coming back from a major surgery. Meanwhile, you had Trey Lance and Sam Darnold, both who had bigger arms than Brock, who were too gun shy to let it rip. And that's one of the biggest things that you could speak to Brock's abilities, not only physically, but mentally. In a situation in where he was coming back from a massive surgery, and these guys who are not, he's the one throwing the ball downfield. That right there should tell you the type of guy that Brock Purdy is. And again, even though he wasn't ultra successful on it, you could see it coming together as the time went on. That didn't change a lot of people's evaluations. They were ultra critical of Brock Purdy without rationalizing this process. The fact that he wasn't even a full participant in training camp because he was on a rehab schedule. So with Brock, what the anticipation for him this next year is that his arm will get better, and not only his arm, but we also understand that a lot of power for these quarterbacks is driven from their base. And when you look at Brock, we call him Baby Bosa because he's got Bosa legs. He's got huge quads and he has a ton of power in that base. And if he can continue to fine tune the technical aspects of his throwing motion, connecting his legs to his hips, to his upper body, to his arm, and tightening the motion and getting it out even faster, this guy has the opportunity to really evolve his arm. And I really think where we're going to see that come to fruition is on passes beyond 35 yards. Now, Brock was still nailing 40, 45-yard passes downfield last season. And we heard that throughout the experience of how to bounce back from a UCL surgery is that about halfway through the season is when your arm starts to feel normal again. So, and Brock Purdy said this. He said about halfway through the year is when my arm started to feel normal again. And so, as Brock continues to improve and progress, this is to me an area from a physical perspective that we're going to see pretty solid, consistent improvement is the ability to hit the balls that are beyond 30, 35 yards. And I've been saying it all off season, man. I'm like, this, like, use your brain. Like, this guy was coming back like from a serious surgery last year. Remember this when you're evaluating, contextualize what you're watching properly. And now the new context is this guy had his first full offseason as a starter. Is his first, he didn't have OTAs last year. This time last year, Brock Purdy was not throwing a football. He was in a sling. So it's like when you're evaluating, context matters. And when you omit context, you're gonna get your evaluation wrong more often than not. And a lot of people got that wrong last year. And as it continues to evaluate and we continue to track the trends, this is one of the trends that we are identifying is that because of the issues that he had last year in throwing the ball long and how that progressed throughout the year, we do imagine that that will go to another level this year with more training, with more strength training, with more mechanical adjustments, and his more comfortability, more familiarity with his wide receivers and speed and timing. All of that is natural, and that's why I believe Brock Purdy is going to be a better thrower of the football in 2024. And to me, this little clip that we got out of minicamp is a perfect example of how this will be the progression. That looks so effortless. Him fading basically to the left and dropping it in the bucket against the sideline, perfect throw. And I think we're going to see some fireworks in training camp coming up. And again, I'm going to keep saying it. I think we're going to see Brock Purdy pushing the ball downfield at a much more explosive rate than we had seen last year, and even a more efficient rate last year. And this has been the tune I've been singing all along. I went on 95.7 the game after week 2 against the Rams, where he had 3 misses on deep balls. And what did I say back then? I said, this is a guy who's trying to find his timing after coming back from a very serious injury. Just allow him to find his rhythm. And once he does, everything will start falling into place. And that's exactly what happened. And as it's going to continue to happen, the projection is that he's going to get better on the deep ball as well. But let me know what you guys think about this. Drop it in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.